I'm Sarah Baxley, and welcome to Pinkie the Bear. This is my Mystics, Metaphysics, and Mindfulness channel, and I'm here today with your astrology forecast for the week of September 23rd, 2018. So the two upcoming themes for this week are 1. Pulling back the reins, and 2. Spoke in the wheel. Okay, so I'm going to tackle both of the themes for this week at the same time. So just to reiterate, the themes for this week are pulling back the reins and spoke in the wheel. And the reason why I chose these as kind of the themes for this week are all contingent upon the full moon in Aries that we have on Monday, September 24th. So both this full moon here on September 24th of this month, in addition to the full moon next month in October, which I believe also might be the 24th, they're a little bit more challenging full moons. Let's just take a minute really quickly just to talk about full moons and their symbolic meaning in astrology in general. So full moons are when you obviously go out into the sky and you see that the moon is its most visible, right? It has the most light from reflecting off of it from the sun. And in astrology, full moons are times of kind of like full awareness and full illumination, right? Of thoughts, of events. They also can be times where kind of like the energy level of things and the intensity of things have kind of been turned up a bit. It's kind of like, I often refer to moon cycles as the same thing as kind of like a storyline, right? You have the beginning of the story at the new moon, the rising action would be the first quarter moon, and the full moon is like the climax of the story. And so we're about to hit this on Monday, September 24th. So with that being said, anytime that there is a full moon, that means that the sun and the moon are in completely opposite signs of one another, right? Kind of like a color wheel for those of you that are familiar with color theory. Full moon, the sun and moon's position are kind of like complementary colors, which are exactly opposite one another on the color wheel. And so, they enhance one another more than any other color, but also if you mix them up, they kind of get really muddy, right? So with that, we have this full moon in Aries, right? Which means that the opposite of Aries, the sun is in Libra, right? So the sun is a lot about kind of like our consciousness, our identity, kind of like where we're kind of at, right? In our thought process and everything else. And the thing is with the sun in Libra, it's a lot about kind of partnership, right? It's a lot about kind of one-on-one interactions and what is best, for what's the way that we can kind of keep the peace and kind of keep things harmonious for both parties involved, right? And opposite of that, we have moon in Aries, and Aries is very much about like birthing out, kind of getting things done, kind of going at things full force, right? Kind of a little bit more like of an abrupt, right? It's kind of like moving at things full force. So the sun in Libra and moon in Aries, it's kind of a matter of us kind of finding our own way within our relationships, right? It's kind of like, at what point do we compromise, and at what point are we sacrificing ourselves too much in our compromise, right? And this is a little bit of a tough full moon, and it's not just because of this polarity that we have, because we get that every single month at a full moon, right? The thing that's kind of tricky is that we have Saturn that's up in the mix, that's kind of creating what we call a T-square. So essentially you have the sun and the moon, and then you kind of have Saturn over on the side that's creating a 90 degree angle to both. And, for those of you that remember, Saturn is very much about restrictions. It's about boundaries. It's about responsibilities, It's kind of like the suit up and show up, planet, in astrology. It's very much, can have a little bit of a somber energy to it, can have a little bit, it's definitely restrictive, right? So when we have it making these tight 90 degree angles to both the sun and the moon, you know, and the sun and the moon are applying, so they're getting ready to really hit Saturn kind of head on. In fact, the moon, I think, makes an actual square to Saturn the day after the full moon on Tuesday. You know, this is kind of tough because there's definitely a restriction that's at play with this, right? So the notes that I put down is I put, you know, we have this polarity of like our consciousness in kind of partnership and wanting to kind of keep the peace and have things be harmonious. At the same time, we're having to kind of look out for ourselves and our own emotions, yet there's some type of this restrictions and boundaries and potentially responsibilities, or kind of this thing where we're having to kind of do things out of a sense of duty that kind of seems to be hampering both of these energies involved. So when I think of these cardinal signs kind of making these squares to one another, you know, one of the things that I really think about is about almost there being too many different energies that are wanting to take charge, or too many different, it could be people, or I think just kind of like different energies that are kind of wanting to move forward, but they're all wanting to take charge, and no one's, there's too many people wanting to be leaders and not enough followers, right? It's kind of this clash of wanting to make movement, wanting kind of for there to be change, but then there is restriction involved, and kind of all of these different energies are wanting to kind of go about it in a completely different way. So again, for those that are getting hit with this, it is going to feel restrictive, potentially even depressive in some type of way, right? There's some type of a restriction, there's some type of a holding back of the reins, and, you know, not to like be like oppressively optimistic, but sometimes we have, you know, everything in life teaches us something different, right? When we have certain things happen that kind of hold us back or create some type of a restrictive pattern for us, such as this full moon does for many people, you know, I think that once we can move past that and kind of look back and be mindful, or if you could be mindful with it as it's happening, sometimes us kind of being held back kind of gives us the opportunity to be present and be mindful with where we're at, and maybe a way that things can kind of be done a little bit differently. So anyway, I just want to send so much love to everyone this week. I know the beginning of the week is a little bit tough. Luckily, you know, as we kind of start to hit Wednesday, Thursday, things are going to kind of soften up a little bit more. The further that we get away from this full moon at the beginning of the week, you know, things are going to kind of start to dissipate. So if you feel like you're going into work on Monday, or, you know, you're starting out your week and it's just feeling a little bit restrictive, just know that it's not setting the tone and the theme for the entire week. It's just, you know, it's going to be kind of just intensified for the first few days, and luckily will start to dissipate by Wednesday, Thursday. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all of your support, and for all of you that have subscribed to my channel, and for leaving comments below and everything. I super appreciate it. So anyway, thanks again, and I hope you have an awesome, I hope you have a great week. I hope you can work through the week and stay positive despite any restrictions that you might have. So anyway, thanks again, and I'll see you around. Cheers.